Welcome to the CutCode channel. The month has come to an end, which means that it's time for a digest of news from the world of PHP and Laravel for November. To begin with, do not forget to check that you are subscribed to the channel, so as not to miss new videos, and by tradition, we start with you with a review of news from the world of PHP with Sergey Panteleev. Let's go! Hi everyone, this is a PHP digest on the CutCode channel. Let's take a look at what happened in November in the PHP world. The 7th release candidate PHP 8.2.0 has been released. Bob Wineand found several bugs that rarely occur in artificial code, but are very likely to be reproduced in real code. Therefore, another 7th release candidate version has been added this year. The release of the stable version of PHP 8.2.0 is delayed until December 8th. There will be no more updates for PHP 7.4. The release of PHP 7.4.3.3 is the last. It is recommended to upgrade to PHP 8. PHP 8.26 and PHP 8.13 are out with bug fixes. PHP 8.0 has ended its active support period and will now only release releases with security fixes. One of the most important news of November, the PHP Foundation turned 1 year old. A year ago, JetBrains published the news about the creation of the PHP Foundation. Over the past year, the PHP Foundation has supported the work of 6 core developers and published an update monthly in the PHP Core Roundup series. A report on the work for 2022 has been published on the Foundation's website. You can support the PHP Foundation on the Open Collective platform. Most of the core news is covered in detail in the PHP Core Roundup series we just talked about, so we'll just go over it quickly. Randomize Edition. The addition of the getBytes from string randomizer method was accepted anonymously. The addition of the nextFloat randomizer and getFloat randomizer methods, as well as enumeration of the boundary interval, was passed with 1 vote against. The RFC destructing calls we talked about in the last issue did not get the required 2/3 of the votes and was rejected. RFC dynamic class constants fetch PHP implements various ways to dynamically look up an entity. Method property variables, but there is no way to dynamically look up a class constant by name. Ilya Tavila suggested adding a syntax for finding class constants. RFC arbitrary static variable initializes. Ilya also suggests extending the syntax to allow a static variable initializer to contain an arbitrary expression. RFC using default exceptions in SQLite 3 model. Proposed to phase out warnings in SQLite 3 PHP 8.3 model to start dropping warnings. Throw an exception by default in PHP 9.0 and remove the SQLite 3 enable exceptions method in PHP 10. RFC read-only amendments. Nicholas Grikos and Matiko Ditz propose improvements to the properties and class of the read-only, allow a non-read-only class to extend read-only classes, and allow read-only properties to be reinitialized when cloned. There was an AMA on Reddit with the PHP Storm team, where the guys answered user questions. If you missed this event and have questions, you can always contact the team on Twitter or via tickets. PHP Storm Candidate 2022-3 is out. Full support for PHP 8.2. New user interface available for preview. Redis support added in database tool. And more. Alexander Makarov published on Habre the 2nd in 2022 news release of the framework and a large digest of events that have taken place since May. Ben Ramsey, PHP 8.1 and PHP 8.2 release manager, has been supporting the Mastodon server for the PHP community since August 2018. There are already a lot of developers and teams registered there, who use Mastodon as an alternative to Twitter. Join PHP community. On the PHP YouTube channel, Valentino Udaltsov disassembles several packages and comments on the code. PHP Lynch has already released 5 releases. Be sure to subscribe to the PHP Point channel and send repositories for review. It can be your project or library, or maybe a component of a known or unknown framework. Generics with PHP attributes. The discussion around generics has been going on in the PHP community for years. Roman Pronsky in his blog suggested implementing erasable generics by extending the attribute syntax, in particular allowing attributes to be placed above expressions and before the return type. Be sure to write in the comments, how do you like this syntax? What advantages or disadvantages does it have? The PHP Thick Group has adopted PSR20 with a recommended interface, block interface for working with dates and times. For today I have everything. Let's move on to Laravel news. Sergey, thank you for the review, and we are moving on to Laravel updates for this month. Friends, our today's review opens with update 9.38 and it affects artisan console comments. A new isolated interface has appeared if a comment implements this interface. Then we thereby limit the execution of the comment and it can be run on the server only once. That is, until the comment is executed again, the same command cannot be run. To add this feature, you just need to implement the isolatable interface on the console command. The Laravel console command for running migrations already implements this interface. Plus, we can run artisan commands with the isolated option and achieve the same effect. Friends, we are moving next in update 9.38. A class for working with stringable and an improvement for the Slack method. A dictionary parameter has also appeared in which we can set a specific set of characters and what we will change them to in the line. Say the behavior before this update with vanish 100 and the dollar symbol with display just 100. And now we can specify that the dollar symbol is converted to the dollar word, and the result will be next. Also, let's not deviate from update 9.38 and also touch on a small update within Eloquent modals. The touch quietly method has appeared. We can now update the times without pulling any events. Friends, we are moving on to update 9.39. The Blade template engine affects the views, a new directive has appeared, a fragment where we can specify a specific fragment of the structure and then call the fragment method from view. Specify which fragment we will display in this case, thus we can use one view in different situations, but vary within these fragments and make conditions for the conclusion. If we remove the fragment method and see what we have here, on the main page, we will see the output of both fragment A and fragment B. And if we return fragment A, we will display only the fragment that we specify. I think this is an extremely useful improvement and it will find application in our projects. We do not stay long in update 9.39 and move on to update 9.40, and the modal show theme has been improved, which shows information on modals. It also acquired new information on app servers. Let's take a look at the modal show. Let's say the user, and we also see absorbers with all methods inclusive in the information. The next update in 9.40 concerns the validation rules. New rules appeared, lowercase and uppercase, which respectively create the rules for the necessary case, and also without departing from 9.40, within the has1 and has-many relations, the has-many method appeared quietly, which also performs all the same functions and save many, but does not pull any events. Friends, still update 9.40, update from Tim McDonald and a new lottery class that allows us to play some kind of lottery where we can specify a chance, say 1 in 20, and in case of success, run one callback. In case of loss, the next one. In general, A/B testing. The author of the update himself says that you are unlikely to find a use for this class somewhere isolated, but in combination with other Laravel features, it can find a place to be. There are also examples where we will say events when we have a too long request and we are part of the lottery. If that chance is successful, we will send a report on this request. And also many other applications. I have not yet found for myself where I can use it, but as soon as I find it, I will definitely share it with you. Friends, we move further on 9.49. And the update affects the rules for validating class root. It acquired new features. Firstly, the only trashed method appeared for the validation rule for uniqueness and for existence. And also before that we used separate classes for files and for enums according to the validation rules. Now they are all transferred within the framework of the root class and we can always work only from it. Here in such a convenient way with all possible validation rules. Next, a new method within the van miss requests. If any parameter is missing, then we can call the callback function and perform any actions in connection with this. And finally, friends, on update 9.41 and on our November digest in general. The update concerns the interaction of suite and within the framework of the service provider. Within the framework of the Vue facade, we can now specify a custom manifest file with you and do the same at the blade level of the template where it does not work in the Vue directive we are used to, as well as specify a custom manifest from the facade and further specify the files that we will render. Friends, thank you all for watching and thank you so much for the like that you just put. In the meantime, we say goodbye and see you in the next video on the CutCode channel.